All right, and we're back. Let's take a look at this because I feel like a lot of my friends outside of this have asked me if there is a tie when it comes to the SEC championship. How's that going to look? And finally, we got an answer last night. So here's what the SEC released. I'll read it out to you because I know it can be a little bit tough to see, and then I'll have Connor break it down for you. So it's going to start with this head-to-head competition among the tied teams. Then it's going to be record versus all common conference opponents amongst the tied teams. Then if we have to go another one, it'll be record against the highest placed common conference opponent in the conference standings. Then I had to ask Connor what this actually meant ahead of time. Cumulative conference winning percentage of all conference opponents among the tied teams. Then it would go to capped relative total scoring margin versus all conference opponents among the tied teams. And then if for some crazy odd reason there needed to be more, it would come down to the random draw of the tied teams, which I personally think that we would see World War III happen before we got a random draw of the tied teams. Connor, just a guesstimate here. What is the lowest one that it could go to?
I think you could well see a 3-team tie and hope that one of those, upper tier ones, be it record against common opponent, plays out. We saw this work out last year in the Big 12 with Kansas State, Texas, all sort of vying Oklahoma State for those spots there in the championship game. And so I don't think for Georgia necessarily a team that I know someone on this panel thinks they're going to lose and thus might open themselves up. I think that Georgia's going to go undefeated this season, and so they're not going to have to worry about the tiebreakers in this format. But this is one of the trade-offs you make when you get rid of divisions and you open yourself up to a 16-team league where you're not playing everybody. And there's a very real chance, let's say Georgia and LSU are both 10-2 and they didn't play head-to-head. They're going to go to some of those other tiebreakers, and that opens you up to some things that you maybe can't exactly control like you can when you settle it out on the field.
Yeah, I do feel like with the 12-team playoff, a lot of people are saying it becomes similar to the NFL where the regular season games don't matter as much because more teams are going to make the playoff regardless. But when I saw that tiebreaker come out last night, it just made me realize, as you mentioned, there could not only just be a 2-way tie, but also a 3-way tie. So those regular season games suddenly do become more important if you want to make the SEC championship.
Right. And this is a thing that, as the playoff unfolds, we're going to see, because I would not be surprised. Let's say there's a multi-team tie for that second SEC championship spot. Let's say Georgia's 12-0, and then you've got, say, a 10-2 Texas and a 10-2 Alabama. Whichever team doesn't end up getting into the SEC championship, it might not be the worst thing in the world, just given that you're not going to add an extra loss to your resume. You're going to get a bye week off. And while, yes, if you win the SEC, you get that bye week back. But there is a world where, if you're that third team in the SEC, you're probably going to make the college football playoff more often than not. And so being in those tiebreaker situations, it can work out in your favor potentially, even though obviously you want to control your own fate and potentially earn a first-round bye in the college football playoff.